What is up, guys? It is the Bluebloods here with our final week 6 preview of the week, man. And we saved the game of the week for the SWAC for last, man. We have Jackson State traveling to Huntsville to take on Alabama A&M. 2 p.m. Central Time kickoff on ESPN Plus. And we have Jackson State being the 3.5 point favorite as I'm recording. That line's moved a little bit. I believe they started at 3. So a lot of people, putting money up for Jackson State right now. But we got so many storylines to talk about. But before we do, man, hit that subscribe button, like the video, and also comment below if you're gonna be in Huntsville. Me and, as y'all know, my co-host Brandon's been taking a break. He's gonna travel up with me to Huntsville for this game. So me and Brandon will be in the stadium in the city this weekend. I'm leaving at this morning, but tomorrow morning as I'm recording on Thursday night. So make sure message us. Our social media is down below. All the links are on our page. So man, if y'all want to meet up, whatever, man, hit us up. We'd love to meet some of y'all, talk to y'all about all the SWAC football, and we get our first SWAC hours, as I guess our guy contrarian thinker would say. But let's get into it, man. We got the matchup of the season right now, man. This is the game everyone's been talking about since the clock hit zero on April 10th in the spring. That is when the Bulldogs pulled off the 52-43 win over Jackson State. And ever since then, the trash talk has been at an all-time high. The fan excitement, and then it even was added when the Bulldogs won the SWAC title in the spring, and then Coach Prime got his 4 stars and 5 stars, and then there's been opinions, spewed by the fans, all these YouTube channels, all the analysts, all the critics. Everybody has put their opinion out there on who they think is going to win, and it all comes down to Saturday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I cannot wait to just feel the energy in the stadium, see these two really, really great teams match up this weekend. But let's get into the storylines for each team. Jackson State comes into this matchup 3-1 off of a bye week. They're 1-0 in the SWAC. And many are proclaiming and crowning Jackson State the next favorites, to take over the throne of the SWAC. They've been led by a stifling defense. It ranks number 1 in scoring defense in the SWAC and also yards allowed per game. And then on the offensive side of the ball, Shedeur Sanders has been playing extremely well for the Tigers. And this team is going to come in fired up, ready to avenge this spring's loss. And I would expect nothing but just pure motivation and energy coming from that Jackson State sideline. Now, the Bulldogs also come in at 3-1. They're 1-1 in the SWAC after a tough loss to Grambling last weekend. That really might have been the upset of the year in the SWAC thus far. And it was a tough game, but I mean, let's just be honest. This team's led by Aqeel Glass, leading the SWAC in passing yards and passing touchdowns. But many wonder if this defense can, I guess, redeem itself after a tough few opening weeks. And a lot of people think it could be the Achilles heel for the Bulldogs this weekend. So they are also going to come in with a chip on their shoulder. Many people call them the asterisk champions, the COVID champions. And so they're going to have a lot to prove. So I expect both of these teams to be extremely motivated coming into this game. Now, Jackson State leads the all-time series between these two teams 17-14. They've won 8 of 14 matchups in Huntsville, but currently Alabama A&M is on a 3-game win streak, and they're actually looking to tie the record for themselves in the longest win streak in the series at 4 games. They've already done it once. They're looking to do it a second time with a big win this weekend. Now, this is going to be probably a longer preview. We got a lot of information. I did a lot of research for this one, but we're going to start with the keys for Jackson State. And it's got to be Shedeur Sanders and this wide receiving core going out there, making plays against the secondary, and just Shedeur being the distributor and all these talented wide receivers being the playmakers on the outside, because they should have the advantage over these DBs for Alabama A&M, at least on paper, going into the game. And on top of that, it's compounded by the rushing attack for Jackson State. not being consistent, and they haven't really been balanced all season long. So Shador in this wide receiving core is going to get, a big brunt of the load of this Jackson State offense. Now, they're averaging over 273 yards passing per game, while the Bulldogs on the other side, shockingly, this number was lower than a lot of people in, all these comments would like to think. The Bulldogs are only allowing about 225 yards passing through the air. But this is still Jackson State's top advantage on the offensive side of the ball, and they're going to have to put up points this weekend. Right now, Jackson State's only averaging 19 points per game. They're going to have to outscore that by a lot to win this game this weekend. Now, and let's be real here together. Shador Sanders has been the focal point, the key, the engine behind this offense. And I think his impact, just because of how bad the offensive line and running game has been, his impact on the offense might have been greater than even the most diehard Jackson State fans thought going into this season. And he's completed 71% of his passes for over 1,000 yards, 7 passing touchdowns, only 1 pick, and also had that rushing touchdown week 1 against FAMU. Now, for this weekend, Shador has to avoid turnovers, which he's done really well. And well, in terms of interceptions, he also has to hold on to the ball. He had a lot of fumbling issues early, but the weather should be nice this weekend. I don't expect a lot of turnovers from this offense in terms of fumbling, but he's got to be efficient, which he has been. He's been very, very effective hitting his wide receivers underneath, throwing the mid range, but he hasn't taken a lot of deep shots. And that's the other thing. We have a new offensive coordinator potentially for the Tigers. So could we see a more aggressive approach? I would love to see Shador take 3 to 5 deep shots and really put pressure on the back end of this Bulldogs defense. That is how Jackson State's going to, one, not just put pressure on the defense. They're going to put pressure on Aqeel Glass in this offense to have to open up, put Aqeel in a more, I guess, dangerous situations by having to throw a lot to keep up with Jackson State's offense, which in turn allows that pass rush for Jackson State to just pin their ears back and get after Aqeel. So I need to see Sanders in this passing attack become more aggressive this weekend. Now, the wide receiving core, Warren Newman and Josh Lanier are the two leading receivers right now. But Keith Corbin and Trevante Rucker have also made their mark for this Tigers offense as well. Warren leads the team with 30 catches, man. He is just catching everything. But for me, he's an X factor because if you remember, his 4 touchdown performance in the spring was really the springboard for that Jackson State offensive explosion that we saw against Alabama A&M that pushed them to, have to go score 50 to win that game in Jackson last year. And on top of that, Lanier's done his thing, but Lanier and Newman have combined for one of the most dangerous underneath short route threats in the SWAC. You get the ball to Lanier and Newman, they have the ability to make 1 to 2 guys miss and go make a play for you, even if you just throw it a few yards down the field. These guys are playmakers. We saw Lanier make a big play down the field against Tennessee State. These guys are going to play huge factors this weekend for Jackson State. Now, Corbin has come on late here, and Rucker also has been a big factor since week 1. Both of these guys are red zone threats. Corbin's really been one of the deep threats. Corbin averaging over 15 yards per catch, Rucker over 18. As Lanier and Warren are the underneath safety guys, Corbin and Rucker can go make those plays on one-on-one matchups down the field, and that's going to be an interesting matchup to see how these Alabama A&M corners match up with Corbin and Rucker as they try to push the ball down the field. Now, as much as I'm talking about the passing game, the rushing attack cannot be non-existent for Jackson State this weekend. In the spring, Santee Marshall had over 120 yards rushing, and that was one of the keys for Jackson State staying in that game and having a chance to win late. Now, the Tigers are only averaging 51 yards rushing right now, guys, and they're only averaging 1.8 yards per attempt as a team, and only one running back has a rushing touchdown for them, and it's just one. They have 2 rushing touchdowns all season after 4 games. They have to do better on the ground this weekend. And I don't blame the running backs as much as I do the O-line, but the running backs have to show some versatility this weekend and some athleticism. Make some guys up front initially miss, get to the second and third level of this A&M defense, and bring some explosiveness to a run game that has really been stale and unproductive this season. Pickett and Marshall are the two guys you got to look at. Marshall could be, for me, Marshall is the more explosive option. Pickett's the more bruiser, power type back. So I'm interested to see how this new play calling system Jackson State's unveiling really leans on one running back or the other. So I think Marshall needs to be the focal guy, but we'll see what Jackson State rolls with when they get onto the field this Saturday. The number one thing for Jackson State I'm going to be personally looking for, as a guy who was an O lineman, I want to see how physical this offensive line plays this weekend in Huntsville. That's the one thing for me. This offense should be averaging closer to 30 points per game based on the talent on the outside at wide receiver, the talent at quarterback. Just they are way too good to be averaging 19 points per game, in my opinion. If this offensive line can click and finally live up to its potential, Jackson State's offense is going to be just fine. It's just the offensive line has to click and has to communicate and has to execute this weekend. They've allowed 3 sacks per game this year and allowed 5 sacks to Delta State and have allowed over 30 tackles for loss this season and a ridiculous 14 tackles for loss against Delta State. Now, I know some guys were shifting around and moving, and some people set out. It was a D2 team, and they should not have won the line of scrimmage against Jackson State. I'm holding them to a high standard on the offensive line, but I don't want to call out any names. But this unit is bigger than what A&M has on the defensive side of the ball. They are more talented on paper, and they should win the line of scrimmage battle this weekend. So there is no excuse for this offensive line unit for me to come in on Monday when I do my SWAC recap for this channel. There is no reason I should come on here and say Jackson State's O-line lost the line of scrimmage battle. They have to win that. Help out Shador. Shador literally is, Shador has like a backpack on, and he is carrying this entire offense throughout the season, and he's got to get some help somewhere, man. And this offensive line has to do it this weekend against a D line that they should have the advantage against. Now, shifting to the Bulldogs side, I mean, listen, of course, it's Aqeel Glass is the key, but let's just boil it down to the statement of protect the damn ball, man. They have 12 turnovers right now for the season, 6 picks, 6 fumbles, and all of them have either, they had a fumble return for a touchdown, and all these turnovers are put in the defense, which I don't think is great, but I don't statistically is not that bad compared to some of the defenses we've seen in the SWAC. But they keep putting this defense in bad situations to give up points. Like I said in my SWAC recap last week, which will be linked above in the top right corner, they gave Grambling the ball inside the 20 like 4 times last week. I don't care. Like I said, if you have the 2000 Ravens, you're going to give up something eventually, giving them the ball inside the 15 just repeatedly. That's the quickest way for Jackson State to run away with this game is if Alabama A&M cannot control the football and cannot protect the football. The one bright spot, though, and this is an interesting stat that if you would have told me in the preseason, I would say this on my show going into this game on October 8th, that Jackson State has 0 picks. I would call you a straight liar that you didn't know what you're talking about. But they've played a lot more man on man this year, and that's a much harder scheme to get a lot of picks. In zone, you can jump on stuff, you can be in the right position, get a lot of tip balls. But in man on man, it's a lot harder to cover your guy, not get a PI call, and get the pick. So I think that's really been the difference. But 0 interceptions for Jackson State defense, and they forced 4 fumbles. So this can be an interesting matchup. Can Jackson State, get their turnover numbers up, or can Alabama A&M protect the ball like they did in the spring matchup, which was really a key for them winning that game? It all starts with Aqeel Glass. He has to play better than he did last weekend. He had 5 turnovers this past weekend. I don't think that will repeat, but he's going to have to be special this weekend. He's going to have to be calm under pressure, and he has to be able to, handle this JSU pass rush, still step into the pocket and make throws, even though the pressure he knows is going to hit him after he lets go of that ball. He's top 6 in passing yards in the FCS and top 5 in passing touchdowns in the entire FCS. Over 1,500 yards passing, 14 touchdowns, 6 picks, and over 61% completion percentage. The number one key for Glass, though, is to escape pressure. he has to be calm. He has to show some athleticism, and he has to show some ability to still be accurate on the run, because that's been a spot for improvement. And this Jackson State team, as good as that front seven is, Glass is going to have to be able to make some throws under pressure and not turn the ball over. That is the number one key for Aqeel Glass. And now, also very important key, the wide receiving core is going to have to go make plays. And what I expect Maynard to do is shift around his wide receivers to get more favorable matchups. He doesn't want Nugget on his best receiver every single play. He's going to try to find the weakness. He's going to try to match up some of these guys on a Shiloh, on a CJ Holmes, on whoever, and he's going to try to say, okay, can your 2, 3, 4 corners guard my 2, 3, 4 wide receivers on the outside? And what you're going to get with a lot of man coverage from Jackson State is you're going to get a lot of one-on-one matchups, and what's going to happen is who's got the better athletes? Does Alabama A&M's wide receivers have the ability to go win these one-on-one matchups? And that's what this key is going to come down to. Can Abdul, can Hilaire, can D. Anderson, Brian Jenkins Jr., Zabri, and more, can these guys go make plays one-on-one with the Jackson State defensive backs? Now, do I think anyone could just absolutely abuse Nugget? Probably not. But I think some of the other DBs could be had in certain situations. So it's going to be interesting to see how Maynard and this offensive staff schemes up these wide receivers. Abdul, 430 yards on 30 catches, two receiving touchdowns. Hilaire's got 3 receiving touchdowns, and D. Anderson has been a monster at 6'6" with 7 receiving touchdowns. These wide receivers are going to probably have the toughest matchup of the weekend. These DBs for Jackson State come in with so much height. They're physical. They're not afraid to, get up in your face, especially when you look at how aggressive a Shiloh could be. Nugget's going to be a shutdown guy. So these wide receivers are going to have to come to play. They're going to have to create separation, and they're going to have to give Aqeel some high percentage throws this weekend, because he's going to be facing pressure, and it just has to be easy passes. And so these wide receivers are going to be a huge key for A&M. Now, the X factor, I said this on the roundtable on Scotty's channel. The X factor of this game for me resides in the backfield in Gary Quarles. The running back spot, averaging over 110 rushing yards per game as a team, and Quarles currently leads the SWAC in rushing yards with over 400 rushing yards this season. He's going to have to find some space. I think his shiftiness is something that Jackson State really hasn't seen this year. And for me, he's going to have to be a factor out of the backfield, and will probably have the most favorable matchups in open space of any potential pass catcher for A&M. The one thing, though, is I don't know how A&M's going to, use him in pass blocking. He's not the biggest guy. I believe he's only like 5'7", 5'8", maybe. And if you got some of those linebackers coming downhill, is he going to be able to hold his own? Now, that's going to be a question that this offensive staff is going to have to answer. And that's going to be a key to this game as well. Now, the matchup to watch for me was impossible just to pick one. So I'm going to go with one positional matchup on each side of the ball for these teams. And it's the same one. It's going to be the line of scrimmage battle, man. I think those two things are going to really determine who wins this game. It's going to be that Jackson State front seven versus the Alabama A&M O-line. And on the flip side, who's going to step up? Is it going to be the O-line for Jackson State that has greatly underperformed this year? Or is this Alabama A&M front seven finally going to come alive? I've already kind of highlighted Jackson State's O-line, but you look at the front seven production for these teams. Jackson State, 16 sacks, 40 tackles for loss. You got Houston with 6.5 sacks leading the SWAC. Aubrey Miller, 3 sacks. And Coinus Miller has really come into his own these past few weeks, being a run stopper in the middle of that line. Katron Evans got some time in there. Abdul's down there. I mean, they have so much depth on the inside of this D line that, for me, Alabama A&M's O-line is going to have to step up. Now, A&M on the flip side, 6 sacks, 23 tackles for loss, led by Phillip Hopkins with 2.5 sacks, and All-American Armani Holloway at that edge linebacker spot. Those are going to be the guys to watch for A&M in that front seven. On the O-line, Jackson State's allowed 12 sacks, 30 tackles for loss. A&M 8 sacks, 25 tackles for loss. So really and truly, the production has been on the A&M side of the ball. But for me, Jackson State's front seven offers a way bigger threat than A&M's does. So Alabama A&M's O-line has the way bigger matchup, man. It's going to be a problem. You start with this Jackson State front seven, you have to win this matchup if you're A&M. Scouts want to see Aqeel against his front seven. Maynard is going to have to get creative on how he moves the pocket for Aqeel and how he shifts the route tree to get Aqeel out of harm's way, get some quick passes, get his playmakers into space without having to run these complex route trees that take 3-4 seconds, because that's not the type of time Aqeel's probably going to have for most of the game. And that's why rushing Quarles is going to be so big, because what it's going to do is cause Jackson State not to just be able to all-out blitz, and it's going to open up some downfield opportunities for Aqeel based on the play-action game if Quarles can get going in the running game. The number one thing is that A&M has to limit pressure up the middle. I spoke about this on the round table. If Aqeel cannot step up into the pocket and he's getting pressured right in his mouth right when he takes that first step, it's going to be a problem, because Houston off the edge is too fast for Aqeel to roll out outside. He's going to have to try to find a way to work up in the pocket, escape out the front side of the pocket, and that's where the money is going to be for Alabama A&M. So the guards and center for A&M have to win the defensive tackle spots. They have to stop those A-gap blitzes Jackson State runs at times. So for me, that's going to be the key in that matchup. Now, the Jackson State O-line has to help Shedeur. Like I said, they cannot allow Alabama A&M just to pressure him all game like they did Delta State, which ultimately led Shedeur having to leave the game early. On the flip side, A&M has to complete sacks on Shedeur. If they can get pressure, which is great, they have to bring him down. I don't know how he does it, because he doesn't look like he's moving that fast on TV. Shedeur is probably the most creative quarterback in the SWAC in escaping pressure. I mean, he, like I said on the round table, he just seems to teleport at times. Like, I don't know how he sidesteps some of these guys. He's a bigger kid at times, and for me, the way he escapes pressure is just amazing to watch. And his presence in the pocket is also something to look out for. We talked about on the round table. He's probably got the best pocket presence in the SWAC right now. And so if you're A&M, not only do you have to get pressure on him, you have to be able to bring him down for sacks, not let him get out of the pocket and make plays down the field. If you miss a sack here or there, you have to tackle well, which tackling has been an issue for A&M at times this year. Now, a lot of people are probably wondering who I'm going to pick here. I mean, I've been very vocal I've been a A&M guy since the spring. And for me, and some of you guys probably don't want me to pick JSU. I know Sonic Boom C98, shout out to you, my guy. He told me I'm not allowed to pick JSU anymore because I picked them against ULM and JSU lost. So he said he said I jinxed you guys, but I've picked Jackson State every game I've covered this year. Now, the thing for me is I don't think A&M is going to turn the ball over 5 times again, and it should give their defense at least a fighting chance. The thing where I disagree with most people is I don't think JSU's run game is going to be good regardless of what defense they play. They rank dead last, guys, in the SWAC in rushing yards for this season, and A&M actually ranks top 6 in rushing defense this year, in rushing yards allowed. And what that has done is put Jackson State into stressful third down situations where they're only completing 32% of their third downs, while A&M's defense is much people like to say they can't get off the field. When they get you to third down, they're holding teams to 31% on third downs. That's elite. But for my prediction, man, I want to say this, anybody predicting a blowout is crazy. I think we're going to see a classic game. I think both of these teams are going to come out ready to play, and I think we could actually see a better game than what we saw in the spring. And I think this game comes down to one drive in the fourth quarter, and it's going to come down to which offense do you think can make 1 or 2 plays down the stretch to win the game. And I know a lot of people are probably wondering, like, man, who could that be? But before I make my prediction, man, hit that subscribe button, like the video, and regardless of who I pick, listen, y'all know where to find me right here on the Blue Bloods. That's why I said subscribe, and we drop our SWAC recap Mondays, 8 a.m. Central. So y'all can clown me if I get it wrong. I'm going with A&M this weekend. I got them 31-30 over Jackson State. I honestly think it comes down to one last game winning drive for Aqeel, and a missed extra point for Jackson State cost them the game. 31-30. Alabama A&M this weekend on the in Huntsville. So guys, listen, like the video anyway and subscribe. Listen, I don't care if you're a Jackson State fan, Alabama A&M fan, you're a fan of whatever SWAC team you might be, and you're just in Huntsville this weekend. Love to meet some of y'all. I appreciate y'all supporting me, man. I know I'm a newcomer. Gonna go get some SWAC hours this weekend. I'm pumped to be in Huntsville. I know Brandon is too, and he's ready to get back to the podcast ASAP. But guys, love y'all support, man. Listen, this is the game of the week in the SWAC. So comment your score predictions below and takeaways. If you predict the winner right and predict the exact correct score, you'll win our $50 giveaway. And if you win it and I see you in Huntsville, I'll go ahead and give it to you, and I'll get your Venmo at the game. But guys, look out for me and Brandon in Huntsville. We'll be looking for y'all. Y'all have a safe weekend if y'all are traveling to Huntsville, man. I appreciate all y'all support for the channel. But for right now, man, I'll see y'all there. But the Blue Bloods are out.